Hello and welcome everybody. I'll do just a really quick mic check. Hopefully you can all hear me. Just give me that thumbs up in the chat. Yeah, let's just get really things going. Let me put my watch on quickly as well. Happy Monday, yes. I wanted to cover trade breakdown I took yesterday evening. My plan for this coming week, a bit of the management side of things. All the stuff that I usually will do. Let's just quickly reload this tab. Okay. Yep. I don't know if this is working on. Let me just refresh this. Okay, cool. I can see who's in here now. Yeah, thank you everyone for the comments. Let's get into things. So I'll begin with, we've obviously seen a large move to the down, a decent move to the downside, overnight. Really, I was able to profit off of this through a single trade or upon a swing failure pattern. I'll talk about that in a second. And now we've seen this large wick to the downside, and you've got this sideways price action. I'm very on the fence I say on the fence, I mean, I can be, as to, deciding where this is going to break to, up or down. If we're still yet to see any sort of definitive break of this local structure towards the upside. But we have seen this large wick towards the downside, okay? And with that being said, we do have, we took a bunch of liquidity on any sort of higher time frame that you look at. This looks like just a retrace, and it could just continue, spiking higher. Now, the one thing I don't like to see. Thank you, Tara, for making it, mate. Appreciate it. The one thing I don't like to see really on a move like this is the size of the wick. And what I mean by that is when you do have like a large wick, like here, for example, it tends to get filled. Now, whether it gets partially filled or whatnot, it does tend to get filled a little bit. So at some point, of course, I'm expecting this to, it could just rocket up from here and then fill this later, right? But at some point, I'm expecting at least a little bit of a partial fill at the least before seeing like a move to the upside. Now, if we just bring this onto like the 15-minute, and you can see we've got this massive wick to the downside, and then we've kind of got this sideways range going on here. Which is really quite clear because you do have, if I just drag this along, you do have a very, I don't even need to draw this because I've marked out my levels. You do have these levels of interest, and I still got the high that I traded yesterday. Oh my god. Oh my goodness. That's a great way to start the stream. I'm sorry, we're back. I'm sorry. Yeah, we always sort of, what I was literally referring to in simple terms. I'll break it down very quickly. Right, is that I don't really like to see wicks on either side. I don't really like to see wicks. So what I mean by that is when you do have a massive wick, it tends to get filled. Now, what I mean by that is you can see here we've got a large wick. I'm not saying it's going to get filled today or whatever, but at some point I'm expecting to see at the very least a partial fill. So we could still move up from here drastically and then come back down and fill it later on. But for the moment, this uptrend remains intact. And I'll talk about the levels needed to reclaim now, but I still actually locally think whilst remaining below certain levels that we can still expect lower. Just going on to like the 30-minute now, you can see here we've got these are the levels of interest for me really that I mark out every single day. Not the same levels, but levels of interest. And you can see here, right, so we've got these two resting highs here. I traded this one here, and I'll talk through that like live trade breakdown in a minute. I really want to break that down for you because I think it was that was a serious trade for me, to be honest. Most trades I take are serious like that. But you can see here we've got these two local pivots here in terms of liquidity. I did want to mark something else. I don't think I don't know why I didn't mark or save. But this is also, I'll mark this out as well. down here, 41,713. Aside from those two levels, right, or these three levels, you know, if price reclaims this high and starts to really just trend higher at this stage, well, then I'd look to close out some of my short that's remaining in there. But for the moment, I think we're really in a space where it's literally got a range high, you've got a range low. Ideal scenario would be something like this. For me, like I always love those type of setups, but again, we're not, you know, I can't tell if that's going to happen yet. So yeah, we've got these two levels of interest, and of course above, if we're just looking at on a 30-minute order, if you want to look at it on, you can see above this high is literally just one time framing price action, where if we reclaim this high, you know, it's very kind of, I don't know if I want to bore people with that, but it's kind of a straight line back up. So I'd be very aware, you know, I've got my alerts set there to see what happens there, to see if we do, you know, continue to see much higher prices, or if that was a nice high we put in. I think it was a decent high, to be honest. So I would be, you know, I'm ready to see a reclaim and you know, I'll happily close the remainder of my short if we get something like this. But until that, I would really just treat this as a local range. And for the day going forward, am I interested in looking at a short from 42,613? Potentially, depends on the reaction. You know, I'm interested in looking for a short here. Depends on the reaction, but also it depends. You know, if there's no reaction, I don't have to take a trade. I got asked a question the other day. She was really, really interesting, because I want to talk you through this, because someone said to me, like, in a scenario like this, my plan today is to, you know, maybe look for a short here, alternatively look for a long, right? Those are the three levels. Someone said to me, if we just continue pumping here, am I going to trade long? I think this is personally, I think this is the wrong mindset to look at things in. My mindset is to trade my levels in a certain direction, and just because, for example, it doesn't offer a short trade doesn't mean that I need to trade in the going direction at that state. It just means I need to sit on my hands and wait for a better trade to present itself, to show its edge to me. Otherwise, I'm just trading the market and manufacturing a trade so that I can get into it, you know, get into a position, right? I think that's really, really important to note. You know, I've seen some people be like, oh, what's this? Hold on. I had something interesting to show you lot as well later. Yeah, I will go through all of this stuff as well. All the questions, I will cover them all in a second. So if you want to put all the questions in the chat, put them all in, and then by the end of all my like explanation stuff, I'll go back and read every single one in detail. And so yeah, but these are the levels of interest for me today. I've got my 3 alerts set. You know, I don't need to trade it a short if it does rally beyond this point. I don't need, or long or whatever. I don't need to take a trade today. Like, that's kind of something that I think is definitely needed to note. You do not need to take a trade today. If these are your levels of interest, like me, for example, if price gets here and it doesn't react, that doesn't mean you go short. If price gets up here and doesn't react, doesn't mean you go long. You know, I'm that's kind of my viewpoint on things. But these are levels of interest for me for today. I kind of made that fairly quick. I'll talk about my actual trade breakdown, because I think it was quite good. Let me quickly do this. I apologize. I'm reopening Exo. I've got a new version I've just downloaded. So I might be able to show you something interesting live on stream. Just something brief. It's not the right version. Apologies. Okay, I'll let this thing. But yeah, those are the levels of interest. I'm hoping Exo charts opens now. I think it is. Launch Exo. So I can show you some stuff of interest. Am I looking for 50% of the wick to be filled? I'll cover all these questions, don't worry. And let's just... Right, I can share with you Exo charts now. Yep, you can all see. So this trade breakdown right now, obviously, if I just want to duplicate this, I want to talk about the short trade I took. I don't I trade very select hours. Okay. I trade very select hours, and in particular, one of those hours which I favor trading, okay, is, if we just load this up, is on a Sunday close session. I don't mind sharing this to you lot. Sunday close session is definitely a session I'm in particular like trading a lot, because I generally see a lot of pivots especially occur at those hours, especially when going into, you know, key liquidity regions. Okay. This is a lot, but if I just go up to here and I mark these levels out like beforehand, like exactly how it's not going to show what I was looking at because the data is bugging. But essentially heading into this, so this is a level of interest for me at the time. Just go over this really briefly. For me was this high here. Now, why am I looking at 1-2 highs? Well, basically what I was thinking was you have one high here, another high here, then you have a gap to like the next high and the next high. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to take all of these 4 series of highs, 1, 2, 3, 4. It can take, and actually you had like a few here as well, so you had like 5 in total. You can actually take like 2 before like a really small gap, before then having another set of series of liquidity. So as soon as I saw this and the reaction which I saw, which if we just go back to X, and I actually bring the screen along, you had a spike in volume into a level, and this is, I'll talk you through what happened on X on Bybit chart. We can actually load. We'll load the BTC USD. Hopefully this one's working because we've got a bit of data disconnections. This will show it, but this hold on. Data source, we don't need that. Right, I apologize for this, but I'm just going through it, and I want to go through this actually properly for you and talk you through like what actually happened at this high. Okay. Now on the BTC USD, you won't see too much in terms of like the values itself. It's not extravagant, but you had like really large. So again, I talked you through the levels of interest, my trades, and I walked you through this last week. So I recommend going back to last week's stream after this about my trading plan and like how I kind of formulate everything. But what is my level of interest in relation to this strategy or playbook? What is the execution, and then how do I manage it? So let's walk through those stages now. So the level of interest was those series of highs. That is my level of interest. What was the execution and reasoning for that? Well, you had spike in delta, or spike in volume, new longs coming into the market. Again, on the linear, it was actually just like a ton of wreck, people getting wrecked, spike in volume, actually extended delta on most exchanges. So there was a lot of reason to like look for a short. And then as soon as I saw it was a 15-minute SFP, like very generic. Execution strategy. People say SFPs don't work. It just depends about which SFP you take. If you take in every single SFP that comes your way, then yes, it's not going to work. You have to be very nuanced and niche in terms of the swing failure patterns you're taking. You can see here. And why did I actually, my bias on the day was actually to look for a short if it rised up. And why was I thinking that? Well, again, the same reason why I wanted to see like a partial fill of this, the wick. So this move up was really good for a short into that level of interest, spike in volume, open interest increasing here, extended delta. I've explained that many times before. But more importantly, just a generic SFP candle, and as well the timing of it. If this trade happened, right? If this trade happened on Monday, on like a Monday London session, I'm not that interested in trading it, but because of the timing of it, it was literally perfect. My eyes kind of lit up when I saw this opportunity, because I see it does happen quite a bit. I plan a liquid, I don't trade Saturdays. Saturdays are the only day I don't trade. Sundays I don't trade New York or anything. I only trade the close if it's valid, but I still do the prep on that on the Sunday. So every other day I'm trading apart from Saturday, really. And as soon as I saw this come up, it's like, it's the right time, it's the right level of interest, it's the right execution things. I'm taking the trade. This is my first TP down here. So, that was my opinion on that. I mean, I ended up, taking the trade, executing, very good execution on this one. And it's also important to note, I'm not just going to talk you through and kind of blow you off. No, that's really the wrong word. Blow you off in terms of the knowledge I'm going to give you about just showing you, my winners, or just talking through that. What am I going to talk about what am I going to actually talk to you about if this trade didn't go well? Well, my planning was, if I got stopped on this trade, then I'd be looking up towards the high of the, these highs up here, and I would have got stopped out -1R, and I would have been prepared to see another SFP here. And if we got an SFP there, I would have traded it. If it just blasted straight through, well then, I'm not looking at any sort of short until the next level. And that's the way I'm doing it. It would have been -1R, -1R, and so on and so forth. So, but in this case, it obviously ended up being a winner, and I don't want to kind of get all excited thinking that that's how every trade is going to be, but it just happened to be that one I took yesterday. But yeah, those were the trades. This was my initial TP1. It was 40%, so I took 40% off at this because there was the reaction, right? There was a reaction. It didn't just like kind of blast straight through at the first touch. There was a reaction initially, so I took a 40%. Okay, if you can just see here, 40% taken off, and then as soon as I would have really closed Romania if we reclaimed all the way up to these highs. I would have shut it completely. But it eventually completely dropped through. I'm actually still currently holding 60%, and I'll really only close that if we see a reclaim of these highs here. So there's a lot left in this trade still, and it makes sense to, at least on my stage, because I'm trading with the current local trend. But if obviously we reclaim this and I start to see like firm acceptance above, I'm happy to close it. But right now there really is no major sign of strength, although we have seen like this wick bounce. Yes, cool. For me, sign of strength would be like a reclaim into these inefficiencies at the bare minimum. We've also now got this range to play off of. In terms of when I say this, I mean like where's the value areas that we can like kind of use to say, if price reclaims this region, I would actually say that's way too far up from like to be thinking okay, we need to reclaim this. I would even say if we reclaim this is bullish, so 43,250. If price, personally, again, I'm in a short, and I'm not biased in any way, because I can't be, otherwise I'm going to get destroyed in this short. But for me, there is no major sign of strength yet. At least at the bare minimum, we have to reclaim 42,700. So for me, I'm remaining in that short until I see a sign of strength, and I haven't longed anything yet either. So again, it doesn't really hurt me either way at this stage. But that's how I've managed the trade so far, and I'll keep you posted on that. But hopefully that makes sense, in terms of just going through everything there. It's the time. I always mention this probably every stream. It's the timing of the trade, and it's not always necessarily the level. It's the timing as well. Sunday evening for me is like. It's extremely important to take trades on those hours. I want to go through some of the questions you have, so I'll bring this up here actually, and I'll right. Good morning, what we longing boys? Good morning, Callis. Good morning, mate. For scalping intraday, can you explain for spot? I don't really do that. Crypto King, unfortunately, you might have to find someone else to. I don't trade. I do trade like my own portfolio and stuff. It's a bit differences. I can cover that, but mainly my main stuff is like intraday trades. On average I might take 5 to 7 trades in a week, and that's that. Can you please show later what your trading plan is for each day? Yeah, I'd recommend you go through the last week's video, Mando, last week's stream, to save it time. I literally go over it in great detail there, bringing up the whole notion, everything. Have you got any stats on taking the weekend highs? No, I don't. But there are high hit rate levels above price currently. There are high hit rate levels. Well, one from yesterday above price, 72% chance of being hit within 3 days. So again, I only take those into, and I've got a whole thread coming out on like forming a daily bias as well. Are you looking for 50% of the wick to be filled? Not every, not necessarily 50% of the wick, but I'd like to see some of it get filled. I just don't like to see, and I need to find the document where I've got the whole stat, because I set a parameter of, okay, the wick needs to be a certain size. What's the chance this certain size wick gets filled? And I went through that. Hi, Lux, I wanted to ask you how you got some days within a London session to be high-low with less than 8% probability. From 3 years ago, and the lowest I got for the London session was on Monday to be a low of the day. It's 13.1%. I went through this data like very, very vigorously. Again, you can go through this. I'll tell you what I've collected, and it basically tells me there's a low chance that London session puts in the high or low of the day. The most common, I've actually even got the most common pair. So like, what's the most common high low pair. I believe it's AN, which is high Asia, low New York. So the most common pairing you'll get is the highest put in within Asia, the lowest put in within New York. And then I've categorized it to which day. So it's not just random, it's on each day as well. Again, I'll write up a whole thread on this as well. Who says SFBs don't work, by the way? I just see it generally. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong thing, but a lot of people I kind of speak to, some people say that, or that I get DM'd a question about SFPs, whatever. Assuming you're in the UK time, what do you start your session? Why do you start your session at 12 when it doesn't start until 2:30? Again, something I've answered many times, but 2:30 is, yes, official open. 12 o'clock. Oh, bear with me, mate. God. My throat. 12 o'clock is where generally you will get that volatility increase. So again, for me, 12 o'clock onwards is where I'm actually trading in New York, because you get the volatility increase from that point on, and that's from collecting data on the average volume per hour per day. It kind of, I actually posted it on Twitter as well, that whole spreadsheet. What would you do after it's done? I mean, I'm salty. I missed this move. I'm looking for squeeze back up. Like this happened at least 2 times before, dump after close, and then we run it back. I wouldn't be salty at all, one bit. Even if I'm not in a trade, no trade is better than taking a bad trade, in my head. So like, I really would just wait on your hands until you have like the best opportunity that is derived from your own trading plan, rather than trying to revenge trade this. And I think I also got asked the question of like revenge trading or like over trading. What's the easiest kind of combat to over trading, in my opinion? And that is literally just to have a day stop in place. So it means you can't lose over a certain amount on a given day. Your kind of emotions change on a day-by-day basis, right? So it makes sense to kind of have a cap on where those emotions can kind of fall off, and that's by having a day stop in place, in my opinion. Hold yourself accountable to that. Also, semi gap, spot CVD on BTC is going to the roof after this dump. What does it mean? I don't look at spot CVD, stuff like that. One day I will go on a rant, but I don't look at that. But again, it might be really useful for you. Just please make sure that the people that are showing you stuff like this and that are going over stuff like this really have a trading plan. Not that you can follow, but like to show that they're having some sort of system or thought process through this, and they're not just showing you a chart of CVD spot data or whatever spot data, or CVD futures or whatever, and comparing the two with 2 different fucking lines on the chart that I can do, and tell you that this is bullish or bearish. You must have a trading plan over this, otherwise it's just fucking random information to you that's going to create so many different biases in your head that you're going to get so confused and end up taking bad trades and over trading and so on and so forth. I'm not just saying this randomly. I mean, I could show you all that stuff as well. I'm just telling you this because I've seen it a lot, and I'm just trying to protect you, I guess. At this stage, it doesn't really help me if you do it or don't. Think about having a trading plan, please, for your own self. Otherwise, you're just going to waste years of your life. I said it before last stream, I'll say it again. Having, just because you're a discretionary trader, that doesn't mean you don't have a plan. That is so important. If you're a discretionary trader, you must have a plan still. You can't just be sitting there randomly, I think it's extremely important. Don't just sit there randomly and start trading because you're a discretionary trader. You trade off of hunch and all of this stuff. You must have a plan. And anyone who doesn't have a plan for the day, or like some sort of written journal or something, self-analysis, etc., that's the only way to improve in this business. I wouldn't bother looking at it. End of story. What's the lowest time frame I trade? 5 minute. 5 minute, 15 minute. Those are the 2 I primarily trade. What time frame wick do you like to focus on? Hourly, generally the hourly or the 15 minute. What would you like to see now to consider a hedge? That's a great point, and that's great. That's the last one so far to read. That's a great question. And I was thinking about this. I don't personally think there's a need to hedge yet. I'll say that now. I don't think there's a need to hedge yet because on the much higher time frame, this is we haven't done anything. We're still well up, right? And for me, I did think about this. The only way I'll really start to hedge is like a break of 38,300, 38k. Yeah, and that might seem a way down, but that's really only when you start to see a sign. That's the only sign of weakness we really will have, is if you start to break 38k. There is, of course, if you would like to hedge now, you are, be my guest too. I don't think we've seen higher time frame weakness though. This is just a pullback, it seems. If you are to hedge now, I would look for something like this, where like if it reclaims 43,400, 43,300, then you get out the hedge. But for me, look at this higher time frame trend. It's just up and up and up, and we haven't really seen anything otherwise aside from that. And why I say 38k, because if we just look at this whole thing, that is really where, even like here, is where you start to see acceptance below. It's really fairly obvious, like SR, like resistance, you've blown through it, and now we're all the way up here. So we haven't lost anything. We've just retraced into like this kind of like small one time framing region, and I think people are getting a bit scared. I really wouldn't say we've lost anything major yet. And a hedge for me is only when I see higher time frame signs of weakness, not like a really mini pullback. Okay, I should open this drink. It's actually not an unhealthy drink for those bothered. How do you approach single prints? Do you pay attention to them, or is it just noise? I'll cover this now as well for you, but I also did a thread on this, so if you want to go watch that for extra, or read that as well for extra info. But let's go to XO. If we just go to like the TPO, I like to sometimes trade the first move into single prints. So if we just BitGet, let's all load up, right? So the first move into single prints, I mean, this is a buying tail down here that we've got, but you can also view it as like single prints and efficiencies, right down here, where it's not going to show it, but where you have this whole row of single prints. I should increase this a bit above as well, right here. So you've got all these single. Okay, we'll go over these ones. This is the more obvious. Getting a bit of a move down there. You've got these single prints here, right? The first touch into them, so like the first move into them, SFP above this high here, could be a good trade. But if you see acceptance, then I'm looking for the fill. Do I look for like reaction upon the fill? Not too aggressively, really. I'd much rather trade the first move into them nowadays, as that's generally after like a series of highs are taken and you get liquidity run off there. So yeah, that's why, like, really, even today I'm looking at SFP of these ones, SFP of these ones, for two potential setups. Yeah, it's actually those single prints really, but it's also runs of liquidity and using that as confluence. So yeah. See, I get a notification on my watch showing, it just told me follow my plan, 11:30 every morning. I went over this and I'll cover this again, but I really just want to, I'm curious, how many of you like have a written plan, like, and I said this before and I'll go back to it, because if I don't have a written plan, I don't have anything to, I don't have anyone to go back on or go back and talk to and be like, yo, I messed up here or whatever, what can I do to kind of fix it? I go back to my written plan, like the playbook, the rules, all of that stuff that I went through last week. I go back to that. I'm just curious, does me saying I have a plan does it sink in? Is it necessary me to say it? Is it something you all have already? I'm just putting the question out there because I'm genuinely curious. I don't think I've run into many people, and if I know them that have a plan, they are on the route to profitability, most of them, or some of them are actually full-time traders. But yeah, I'm just curious on that front. But for Bitcoin today, like, just to recap on my levels of interest, we obviously got those liquidity levels, like I said, and until we reclaim this, for me personally, there is no massive sign of strength. We have to reclaim this. People again, I can be wrong on this, but people view this massive wick as like it's a massive buyback? Possibly, yes, but also on the flip side, it's, you know, it leaves behind this set of inefficiencies, which for me is a potential fill at some stage. You know, whether it rallies up now and fills it later, or fills it now and then rallies. I don't, or just completely falls it through. I see some of this getting filled. Hence why, you know, I wouldn't really personally say it's a major sign of strength. Just this bounce hasn't really changed any structure locally. Hasn't reclaimed this prior range. Hasn't reclaimed into those inefficiencies. If it does any of those things, then yeah, it kind of will then look a bit more bullish. But until then, range bound or looking for at least a low to be taken, or these lows to be taken. That's a good question. So can you make a new plan during New York session, or is your plan of the day made before New York session? So I create my plan of the day. My initial plan is made within London session, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. around those hours. And then because I don't really trade London, I trade New York, 11:30, 11:45. So literally now, as soon as the stream ends, I do my pre-New York evaluation, which is I'll reevaluate my plan, right? And then go, because, you know, I've done my initial plan at 7, 8. It's now 11:30, 12. That's like 4-hour gap where a lot of price action can develop and kind of alter my plan. So I do my initial plan. I then do I've got these set questions and I go through them in last week's stream. What is my actual, you know, I go through these set of questions and go, okay, is there anything I need to change? I need to adjust a few things, to higher the day, etc., etc., etc. And then it literally just says, with all that mentioned above, reevaluate and look back at your levels of interest, see if you need to adjust your plan. I do that, and now New York session starts. I'm ready. Boom. And as soon as that happens, that there is no readjusting of anything. I'm just waiting and ready to trade if needs be. So hopefully that kind of answers your question there. So I reevaluate just before New York, and that's kind of it. And I guess you can really do this depending on how, you know, your own system is set up. But I'll have a lot of info on you. No real plan for me. Too lazy and only part-time, but I respect you for reinforcing the need. I won't be harsh. I'll just leave that there. No real plan for you. 2 days in, only part-time trader. I think the word part-time trader is not the right way to word it, is all I'll say. So I'm daily VWAP respecter. So I entered long 40 to 180 which is around daily VWAP. That's my plan. I can't really see. Yeah, it's got this little love heart emoji thing. I can't really read the rest of the sentence for some reason. But yeah, I don't think that term, I don't know if that was just said to wind me up or anything. But yeah, you have to try and do this, you know, treat it full time like a business. I'll tell you a story of what I saw. I saw a full-time, quote unquote, I'm not going to name drop anything, but I just wanted to make this clear to everyone. I saw a quote unquote full-time trader say they don't have time to trade, right? But they did mention before this was their primary source of income. That to me is really fucking baffling. If you don't have time to trade and it's your primary source of income, when I say that, I mean like, you know, they're doing other small things which don't make sense. You know, it doesn't add up. Surely you would make the time to find a way to trade since you are a profitable trader. But anyway, morning. I'm 20 minutes behind in the live stream, but quick question. When you refer to waiting for price to react to your levels, are you referring to a CHOCH? I can't lie, I don't know what that is. On the 1 minute time frame, I look at the 5 and 15 minute at the very, 5 minute at the very least. 15 minute is my go-to. So the hourly is also decent, but 15 minute, 5 minute, yeah. Do you take a trade from the Friday high? If yes, why? And if not, why not? Great question. I didn't actually talk about this, but I had a really good trade on Friday. I marked these levels out again. It's really these levels of interest again that I discussed, but I traded long. I didn't trade the short, but I traded the long off of this low here. Okay, because it was like these last lows, SFP, bit of sideways whilst holding this low, and then it saw rally. This was like a really good low, because I didn't, it's great to have these winning trades, but I actually ended up adding to these trades. So this trade here, I got in, stop loss, saw it moved in my direction. Okay, I'm at this stage anticipating trend continuation, right? So then what I did was, rather than just sitting there on my hands, price moved away, I actually added to my position again, and then took profit at the high completely. And as soon as I saw like this failed auction type scenario, I completely closed it. I'll do a trade. This will be a trade breakdown probably for the coming weekend newsletter, because it was really good with different nuances. But in terms of adding to the trade and stuff like that, great. I didn't short this no, because I thought it still had the potential to go higher. Obviously it didn't. But also I don't trade Friday night heading into Saturday, so catching a high or low doesn't really matter to me. Is your position sizing always the same, and is your risk always the same? No, but a lot of the time it is, because I only trade like one or two certain strategies, and I don't vary too much between those strategies, but they do vary. One strategy risks more, one risk less, but I take one a lot more than I take the other. And it's like the internal liquidity, resting liquidity strategy. I've got a whole like set of rules that I go through. Really, it's my trading plan, and the way I'm very process driven is so deep that I don't think many people understand like how deep this goes. I have hotkeys set up to tag and journal my trades, everything like that. So there's a lot to it that a lot of people don't see. I'll maybe cover it in another video one day, like my whole trading workflow, because there's a lot of it's not seen that I think is used, like automation things, like just to have a hotkey so I can bring up like my daily report card or something, so that I can watch it, look at it before I enter a trade. Like I've got my message to me, like before I'm executing any trade, I've got a message that I can pin to myself. But yes, I do trade different sizes, and yeah, I posted a video on it, like my position size calculator. I use that like all the time. I think it's quicker than most other things that are out there. So I literally love using that, like, and the fact that I was able to make that and benefit is crazy. Could you do a psychology trading topic stream with Callus? Yeah, that would be great. We always actually have calls sometimes, and we actually talk about it between ourselves. We just don't really, most people don't, no one else hears them. But they are great. Callus knows. I don't know if I can say it. I actually am meant to be doing 2 interviews coming up, so you'll hear a lot from me. I think a lot more about myself and trading and all of that stuff from my end. Do you use hard stop losses, or even if you are stop out, do you consider to enter if the setup looks like it would eventually play out? I have rules on that. For example, SFPs of an SFP, I'll trade one SFP of an SFP. So if my SFP trades that I enter get stopped out, and then the SFP's that once, I'm in. If it then SFP's that, I'm not trading it. So there's like kind of one leeway on that, but apart from that, I have a hard stop loss. Because otherwise you can just SFP, you've entered 8 times, you got stopped 8 times, just fucking wiki price action. That's for me at least. What things do you look at at the end of the week when you revisit all your trades? My biggest winners, my biggest losers. Did I follow my plan in my daily report card? That's actually more important to me to look at as well. Not only my actual trades themselves, but the report card, because that's kind of a reflection upon my emotions, my plan following regiments, my rule following, all of that stuff. But obviously I go over my trades, which setups did the best, which did the worst. I know the average R of my setups, what I should be getting. So it's kind of just, am I following my process? Very process driven to be able to maximize that, right? So, and that, am I following my process kind of question, it derives from my DRC. So I review that a lot more. But I do review all my trades as well, yes. And what would I say from those? Well, what was my biggest winner? What was my biggest loser? Could I have captured more from my winner? Could I have could I have cut my loser quicker? All those type of questions, yeah. And then from there, it's kind of like working back. Well, if I could have captured more from this winning trade, how? Let's go back on the chart replay function on TradingView or Exo charts. Okay, I could have done this, and this. Maybe I'm going to imply that next time for this certain strategy and look, how can I implement that for most trades going forward. So yeah. Hi Luxury, do you have a different trading strategy when you trade, or you have a specific strategy like SFP? I trade a lot of SFPs, but it's a very regimented way in doing so in terms of like my routine into actually getting the levels of interest, and so on and so forth. It's not just, oh, that's an SFP, I'm going to trade it. I plan my levels well out in advance to the trades I'm going to take. I only trade BTC right now. Yeah, I really do. I guarantee, I won't even guarantee that, but be cautious. You see people trading tons of alts. I'm not, and there's definitely profitable ways to do it. For me, I've met someone that has traded like tons of different. Listen to this, please, because I don't think this is appreciated or thought about enough. I've traded. Look, I've spoke with someone that I know that trades full time. They're a profitable trader, right? And they're actually, I know them quite well. They're a profitable trader. They trade altcoins. They take on average like 60 trades a week, right? I on average trade 7 trades per week. I still average a higher return than him on average. So just because I'm not trading multiple alts or looking for multiple opportunities doesn't mean I don't maximize or make more or the same as someone that does. It is actually about picking your opportunities, because if I can trade in the alts, I could pick a bad trade. I could, and it just overall has a negative effect on the R, for me at least. So it is about picking your opportunities, and just because I'm not trading a lot of alts or more than one pair doesn't mean I'm not making more money. Key levels are great if you can be at the charts all day, but if you have a full-time job, do you have any ideas how to enter successfully? Is it a case of don't bother if you can't put in the hours? I would say, this is really difficult. It is a difficult position to put yourself in. I'm going to be honest with you. I would definitely say if you're doing a 9 to 5, for example, we'll go off that kind of time frame. 9 to 5, you get home at 6, from 7 till 11, so 4 hours. That's your trading hours. You don't trade anything outside of that. So you have to adapt your scenario to be like, okay, I'm going to trade 7 to 11. What are my levels of interest within these hours? Is there any patterns I'm noticing within these hours? So on and so forth. Okay, I wouldn't trade whilst you're doing other stuff. No. Do you enter SFP smashing market order, or you always enter for wait for partial pullback? I always enter at limit. Always. In Silico Terminal, I've literally done an exact video on how I enter every trade at limit. I think that's the title of it. But yeah. No, I don't really look at the tape. I do not look at the tape too much. I don't look at the tape too much. The only part missing is psychology things. It's extremely hard to master. What is my inspiration based behind collecting stats? Is it always based on sessions? It's not always based on sessions. I want to be very honest with you when I say I share like kind of the surface level stuff with everyone, because there are certain things that Exo charts is a very powerful platform. Think of it like that. You can create custom charts, right? And you can create custom gaps. I'll give you this example. You can create custom gaps. This is the closest I'm going to give to like I've ever said on stream or public, but you can create custom gaps, right? Think about that. You can create custom gaps. All markets, some markets, stock markets have gaps. Professional full-time traders trade gap fills. So if you can create custom gaps on any market in the world, think about the custom gap fills you can create on any market in the world. That is as closest to an edge I'll probably give you in regards to like anything that I do in relation to that. Because I've never heard anyone ever talk about that before. Ever. So yeah, that Exo's got the ability to do custom things like that, which is really powerful in that front. Now I'm currently going to school and have dependent on the day to really work and trade. Do you think this can be a problem? Why I'm not profitable right now? As long as my brother goes to school, Um, how depend. It depends. Like you need to have like a fix. The hard part is that I can't speak too much from that. I mean, I can. You have to create a routine around those hours. A routine where you're not trading, within those hours that you're out or at the chart or not at the charts, whatever, you don't look at the charts back then. But aside from that, you're very routine and regimented in your strategy. You do your plan from the morning and then you actually only trade and look at the chart at the end at night. That is possible. There's definitely multiple ways to do it. Would you consider doing like a pay course and explaining more about stats psychology? Also love your free work you do here on YouTube. I appreciate it, mate. Probably not right now. Maybe in the future, but not right now. There's no rush to do anything like that. I know I could, and I've been asked multiple times to do something like that, but not right now. It takes a lot of time, and I'm very much focused on trading. Do you advise jumping straight into XO charts, or do you believe you should be a profitable trader before XO? And I'm new. Do you sell no, I don't sell a course. Damn, I'm getting that asked a lot recently. I'm not going to lie to you. No, I don't sell a course. Everything is on YouTube. You can go, click on the link in the description. There's a luxury.bento or bento.me/luxury. You got my free read-only Discord there. With all, you get access to my Twitter. If I would recommend something, go to my Twitter, start reading through my threads. I've got another one coming out today. It will literally help you through XO in great detail, everything like that. I will do something about XO charts because I'll talk you through that later. I've got something. I did make something in relation to XO that I was going to put out for free, and that is like really good, obviously. So yeah, you don't need to be profitable before jumping into XO. It's just part of your learning curve. You can learn it first and then start implementing it into your trading. Just try not to get too overwhelmed by it. I've kind of gone over time. Again, this is like kind of the part-time thing I do is the YouTube. There'll be a thread coming out later today. I need to go do my pre-New York session plan. Hopefully my levels have been discussed with you all here. We've got the high, the two lows that are really of interest. Reclaiming 43,100 and reclaiming into the inefficiencies would be like the best opportunity to see like a larger rise to the upside. But until then, range bound / looking for these lows for me. But I'll keep you posted on Twitter and everything. So thank you, everyone. I hope you really enjoyed. Tag me on Twitter with any remaining questions you have, or X, tag me there. Respond to the post of live now, and I'll answer that